Hello fellow humans, my name is Poppy and I like to eat food. And something I like even more than just eating food is eating food I haven't tried before, especially when it comes from a country I haven't been to before. For example, back in January, I was in the United States for the first time in my life, more specifically Chicago, so of course there were a few dishes I had to try. I also consumed a lot more meat than I normally do. First of all, I apologise to the planet for that. Second of all, it comes back to bite me in the butt. You'll find out why. So I guess that was some environmental karma, but part of travel is pushing yourself out of your comfort zone, so I wasn't gonna stick to just the vegetarian version of everything. I wanted to eat what people were actually eating. Also, two things to note just to make the video a little easier to understand. One, I was there for my best friend Charlotte's wedding, yay. And two, I spent my nights and thus had some meals in Naperville, Wheaton, and downtown Chicago. So, I thought it'd be fun to go through my whole week of dishes, meals, eating experiences, maybe beverages sometimes, if applicable, and rate them out of 5. But no, not 5 stars. You guessed it, 5 Chicago-style hot dogs. Quick side note, if you'd like to see all the other shenanigans I got up to on my trip, I have already made a more extensive video on everything I did as a whole, and that will obviously be linked in the appropriate places. If you're watching this 20 years in the future, there might not be a description box anymore, but there'll be something connecting this video to the past one. Yes. So, let's start with my first night, when I landed in Chicago, drove down to Wheaton, and had a big ol' sleepover with Charlotte, the bride-to-be, before all the craziness of the wedding week began. We decided to have dinner at a place called Los Burritos, which is a very studenty establishment, even though it was 4 AM, I think, for me. We had some burritos, obviously. My body was just very confused because it was like, is this breakfast? What are you doing? Why are we here? This is normally when you're sleeping. What was the plane? Was that a day ago? And now you've got this big wrap in front of you. We also had horchatas and some other soft drinks. Honestly, it's a bit of a blur. It was like a really, really early breakfast. All things considered, my portion was maybe a bit too big. I tend to have quite a big appetite, but that was unexpected. The taste was good. The drinks were really nice. The atmosphere, not so much. It was just sort of bright lights, but I guess it did the job. So yeah, overall, I would say 3 out of 5 Chicago hot dogs. So then we move on to day 2. In the morning, we went to Target, and I had a quick slushie, and that was tasty, and I can't really fault it, but it wasn't quite as good as a Tango Ice Blast in the UK because those are fizzy as well, and I still find that kind of mind-blowing for some reason. So I'm gonna say 4 hot dogs. Then we move on to lunchtime. I still wasn't hungry. I think my biorhythms were messed up because of that mega burrito.
Stop it. Get some help.
But we went to Charlotte's University campus, Wheaton College, and the cafeteria as well, and I tried one of their ice creams because that was about the only thing that I could manage. It didn't taste as fresh as I might have hoped. I had sort of higher expectations for a dessert type thing. So I'm gonna say 3 hot dogs for that, unfortunately. And then it was dinner time, and I joined the rest of the family in the wedding party, and we went to Lou Malnati's in Naperville, and I tried my very first deep dish pizza. I had a vegetarian one, and it was satisfyingly cheesy, and indeed deep. My one criticism would be that I felt the vegetables sort of got lost in it. I I'm sure there were some, but it basically just tasted like a pile of tomato and cheese, which is tasty, is fine. I just would have appreciated a bit more excitement. Also, a word of warning, one slice of the pizza should be enough to fill you. It's basically like eating a quiche or something. It's really filling. So overall, I would say the experience of Lou Malnati's was 4 hot dog worthy again. And then it was day 3. This was the day I took the chance to explore on my own a little bit more. So I walked around to Naperville for a while. It was freezing. I don't recommend walking around small towns in Illinois in January. That being said, I didn't know it was going to be so painful. So I walked around to Naperville and I came across one place I'd seen a few times in the car and stuff, walking past, driving past, whatever, called Soul Taco. As you can probably imagine, it was a Korean and Mexican fusion sort of place. So I ordered a little taco tray with chicken and they gave me beef. I don't like complaining about service, so I accepted the beef. Oops. That being said, it was my first experience of refillable drinks. I didn't actually need to refill my cup because it was so big anyway. And even with the spice and everything, the tacos did taste good. I probably should have ordered a side, but I didn't know what sizes to expect, especially after that burrito from before. So yes, even though they made a mistake, I would give them 4 hot dogs. And then later that day, in the evening more specifically, it was the rehearsal dinner for the wedding at Ivy in Wheaton. I unfortunately didn't film that particular meal. I believe I had salmon and some very nicely grilled vegetables. So the main course was really good. The dessert as well was a very rich chocolate mousse type thing. Maybe a bit too rich, but still nicely done. However, the starter, the bread was clearly fresh. It was really nice. I was impressed. It wasn't like fluffy, soulless bread. However, the butter, it seemed like instead of salt, they put sugar in it. And then the thing is, I felt really awkward. I didn't know if this was how butter normally is in the States. I hadn't had any yet. So I didn't want to say anything. And then someone else commented and was like, oh wow, the butter's sweet. Have you guys noticed? And I was like, oh, thank God, I didn't want to say anything, but yeah. And everyone else at the table sort of in unison was like, yeah, it's amazing, it's so good. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna pipe down now because I do not seem to have the same opinion as everyone else. So overall, I would still give the experience 4 hot dogs. It's time for day 4, and this was the day of the bachelorette henchilorette party for Charlotte. So we went into downtown Chicago. This was my first sighting of the big city. It was my first sighting of any big American city. The skyscrapers were overwhelming. After doing a whole selection of things, we had lunch at the Little Goat Diner. Now, the Little Goat Diner has a very interesting menu, and I found that there were a lot of intriguing flavour combinations that I was tempted to dive into, but after my experience with the butter, I think maybe subconsciously I was a bit like, no, let's stick to just savoury or just sweet. Let's not combine the two this time around. So I went for a different kind of fusion-y experimental thing, and it was a burger with rice noodles. And I actually wasn't sure when I ordered it if it was going to be rice noodles in a bun or rice noodles instead of a bun. Turns out it was instead of a bun. So I basically sliced the burger and mixed it in and it became its own sort of noodly dish. And I don't know what all the ingredients and sauces were, but it was really tasty. That was one of the meals that stuck with me. And then to top it all off, I had a Coke float on the side. Those are one of my favourite American inventions, so that was great. One of the waitresses dropped a knife on my back and it spread some egg on 2 layers of my clothes, which wasn't the best experience, especially when she told me it's not that bad. not knowing those were the only outer layers I had with me because I was only staying for a little while. But it's okay. The tastiness of the food and drink and all the freebies they gave us, because we were celebrating as well, all combines to still make it worth 5 hot dogs. Then in the evening, as everything was winding down, we went back to Naperville and went to a bar / sushi place called Blue, and I had, you guessed it, a cocktail and some sushi. And the sushi was really tasty. There were some particular California rolls and other things that I hadn't tried before. I didn't really film the food. I got like 1 or 2 pictures of the bar as a whole because I thought the vibes were quite nice. But I did film myself dancing in the bathroom, so here's that. And that's pretty indicative of my experience there. So I'm gonna say 5 hot dogs again. Yeah, day 5, the big wedding day. A lot of stuff was happening in the earlier half of the day, so I didn't get a chance to eat anything. I think I might have had a quick piece of toast with some slightly less sweet butter, but I basically saved myself for the big wedding dinner at the reception, and that was at Maison Sabika in Naperville again. They had a whole selection of various tapas things and aubergine combinations and vegetables and things on bread. I honestly can't remember that well. It was just a lot of different things to try from, and I think they were all really tasty. So I'm gonna give Maison Sabika 4 hot dogs. Okay, day 6, and this is where I properly spread my wings, flew the little Airbnb nest, and moved myself to downtown Chicago. As soon as I got there, well, after leaving things in my room obviously, I found a place called UB Dogs, and you guessed it, they did Chicago-style hot dogs. Obviously, it was like the first thing I had to try. I'd already had the deep dish, you know, what was I gonna do? So I got a combination of a dog and some fries, and I ate that. If I'm entirely honest, and maybe this wasn't the best place to go, but I did look up reviews on Google and that's kind of why I went there, I was a little underwhelmed. I think I was expecting, first of all, something bigger, especially after those burritos I had, but also just, I don't know, it's weird because they put a lot of stuff on it. Chilies, onion, other chopped up bits, you name it, it's on there. And the hot dog was fine. I think I was just expecting something a bit more mind-blowing, you know, this is like what you come here for. Maybe next time I go to Chicago I need to try all the hot dog places. It was still more exciting than just a plain hot dog, definitely. But I'm gonna give it 3 hot dogs. And yes, I see the irony in giving 1 hot dog 3 out of 5 hot dogs. Does that make it 3/5 or 3 times itself? You decide. Anyway, I did all the touristing I could that day, and then it was time to settle in with some dinner. And I went to Chick-fil-a. Yeah. In hindsight, I wouldn't have gone. I wouldn't have supported a famously homophobic chain. If you don't know, the CEO came out as anti-gay back in 2012. I didn't know this. It's definitely not what I stand for. And the unfortunate thing is I did like what I ate. But yeah. Also, I was standing there waiting for my order for like 15 minutes and it was right next to me and they just didn't realize it was mine. They kept looking at it and not saying anything, so that was a bit weird. So I guess overall morals and human side of Chick-fil-A, not great. But it was fried chicken. You can't really go wrong with fried chicken. I had some like waffle fries as well. They were different, so that was cool. But I just can't mark them very highly considering what I know now. So I'm gonna give them 3 hot dogs. Okay, day 7. I woke up in my hotel and realized they had some cool DIY, very American breakfasty machines, and I was gonna try 1 for each day I was there. 2 days, 2 machines. Worked out nicely. So on this first day, in other words my 7th day, I tried the Pancake Machine, and it was adorable. I think the pancakes that came out really tasty. Almost ridiculously small, but that added to the charm, so I don't mind. And then I just added a little bit of syrup. I think I put some bananas on as well, something. But honestly, the main enjoyment came from just watching the machine and the little conveyor belt squirting out the dough and cooking the pancakes. That was cute. And I liked that. It was a nice way to start the day, especially because I'm not that hungry in the mornings normally. I would give it 3 hot dogs. Then I went to the Adler Planetarium and I got a bit peckish because I spent a while there. Unfortunately, the only sort of eating option in that vicinity, especially in January, was the cafe of the planetarium, the Cosmic Cafe, and the choices were a bit limited, so I had a bag of Flaming Hot Cheetos. I tried them for the first time. Wait, were they even the Flaming Hot ones? I had a bag of Cheetos and a chickpea salad thing. I know it's a strange combination, it was what I could get. The chickpeas were sort of wet. Definitely wouldn't recommend. Cheetos are Cheetos, so yeah. But I tried the crunchy ones, which I hadn't tried before, and that was funky. So I'm gonna say 2 hot dogs for that experience. I don't really need to go into further detail. And then it was dinner time, baby. And this was gonna be my final dinner in Chicago, so there was a bit of pressure on this meal. I know that's self-inflicted. What can I do? But I'd walked all the way to Skydeck, so there weren't actually that many options on my route back home because I was cold and I just wanted to get back to the hotel as quickly as possible. I said home, it was a hotel, whatever. So I found a Chipotle. Yes, I had another burrito, and this was him. And I don't know if I could pick a favourite burrito. You could tell it was foreign because when I got up to the counter they just sort of said, "What do you want?" Obviously, that's what they do. And I had no idea what I was looking at. And I says, okay, I know that a cucumber's a cucumber, but I mean, there were a lot of sauces and things, so I just went, yeah, if you say so. And then I left with my little baggie, walked all the way back, and ate what I had. This one was also good. It was a bit spicier, so I would say 3 hot dogs again. Woo! Okay, it's the time for my final breakfast on this American land, and I of course went for the other machine in the hotel breakfast room, which was the waffle machine. This was a bit more stressful. I managed to flip it and spill some bits out because I was trying to film it. I am that person, sorry. But again, because it was sort of machine made and I didn't necessarily know what I was doing, it was just some dough with a bit of syrup on. Definitely could have been more exciting, but I wasn't like angry about it or anything. So I'm gonna say 3 hot dogs for my breakfasty waffles. And then, can you believe it, boys? It was time for my absolute final meal in Chicago, in the United States, and I walked all the way to the brunch place known quite aptly as Brunch. I ordered the skillet, the local skillet, I don't know how people pronounce it because I've heard so many different interpretations. Chi-town, 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 She-town, the Chicago town skillet. And that was a whole just massive pile of eggs and various meats, more meats than I normally consume again. And that was done really well. Even, you know, the onions, they weren't too caramelized, they weren't too sweet for me. I had about a quarter of it because it was massive. I had a hot chocolate before that as well while I was waiting for my food. But I immediately ran to the bathroom before I could even leave the place. I don't know if it's the meat or the place. That sort of put a dampener on things. So 3 hot dogs again. So yeah, after that experience, I raced back to my hotel, picked up my suitcase, whizzed to the airport, had one last American iced tea, and came back home. I realise this video has been a bit of a mess. Hopefully it's at least been entertaining. I doubt it's been educational, even though that was the original intention. Maybe? I don't know. No, it wasn't, let's be honest. And if you enjoyed it, it would help me greatly if you liked the video, subscribed to my channel, maybe shared it with a friend who's been to Chicago or also had food poisoning. And just remember to have a lovely day, or as it is for me right now, morning. Goodbye.
Mega Burrito.